Hi, welcome back to Reading with Leon. I'm going to push this back a little bit because we got a big book. This is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it is based on the original story by the Brothers Grimm. It's retold by Carolyn Magners and illustrated by Margaret Sanfilippo. And it's really beautifully illustrated. It says, this classic tale by the Brothers Grimm, retold by Carolyn Magners, will melt anyone's heart. It says, the full-color illustrations by Margaret Sanfilippo, bound in this treasured story of a beautiful princess with ruby red lips, coal-black hair, and snow-white skin. Oh, goodness. Okay. It says, a beautiful young girl called Snow White once lived in a magnificent castle. Her hair was silky black, her skin was fair as snow, and her lips were red as rubies. Each day, Snow White and her puppy happily lived in the large castle. They lived there with her father, the gentle king, and her stepmother, the evil queen. The queen owned a magic mirror. Several times a day, she said to the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" "You are, my queen," the mirror always replied. But each day, Snow White grew more beautiful. I think the queen would be pretty if she was happy. This beauty comes from in here. One morning, the mirror replied, "My queen, your beauty is grand, but Snow White is the fairest in all the land." The queen grew very angry. "What? Snow White is more beautiful than I? This cannot be, huntsman," she screamed. "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her." But the kind huntsman could not kill Snow White, so he took her deep into the forest and told her to hide from her stepmother. "Never return to the castle," he said. Alone in the deep forest, Snow White wandered for hours. The trees seemed to come to life. She thought they might reach out and grab her. "What am I going to do?" she cried. Snow White was afraid of the whistling wind and the night creatures, but not one of them harmed her because she was so sweet and beautiful. Animals are very good at telling kind people from evil people. As the sun rose, Snow White saw a tiny cottage in a meadow. "Oh, look," she cried to the forest animals. "What a lovely little house. Maybe I can rest there." She ran to the cottage and knocked. No one answered, but the door was open, so she went in. Snow White saw a tiny table set for 7 and a huge kettle of stew cooking over a fire. "The stew smells so good," she thought. "No one will mind if I have just a little." After eating, Snow White lay down across the small beds to take a nap. When Snow White awoke, she was surrounded by 7 little men. "Welcome to our home," they cried. "Do not be afraid. We are the 7 dwarfs. You look so pretty and peaceful. We did not want to disturb you." "Thank you," said Snow White shyly. "My name is Snow White." She told the dwarfs how she was forced to hide from her wicked stepmother. "If you let me stay here, I could sew and cook and clean for you." The 7 dwarfs agreed to let Snow White stay. They quickly grew to love her, and when they arrived home after work, Snow White greeted them with a hot meal and a happy smile. One night they sang songs in front of the crackling fire. The dwarfs told Snow White that her evil stepmother knew where she was. How do they know that she knows? "The queen might try and hurt you," warned the dwarfs. "She is a clever witch, and can easily disguise herself, so you must not talk to any strangers, they insisted. How did the queen find out who told? One day, while the dwarfs were at work, a strange woman came to the cottage selling apples. "Delicious red apples for sale," she cried. "Juicy ripe apples. Won't you come out and taste one of my apples?" she asked Snow White. Forgetting the dwarf's warning, Snow White opened the door. The forest animals chattered loudly. They knew the stranger was actually the wicked queen, and the apple that Snow White was about to taste was poisoned. Oh no, don't eat it. When the dwarfs came home, they found Snow White asleep on the ground. They could not wake her. "The wicked queen did this," cried one dwarf. "Snow White was a friend to all creatures of the forest," sobbed the dwarf. "We'll place her in a crystal box high atop the mountain, where we can all visit her." Every Sunday, the dwarfs visited Snow White. During one of their visits, a handsome prince rode by on a white horse. He immediately fell in love with Snow White. "Why is she in a crystal box?" he asked. The dwarfs told him about the queen's clever disguise. "We fear Snow White will never wake," they cried. Poor dwarfs. The prince lifted off the crystal cover and took Snow White in his arms. Suddenly she coughed, and a piece of the poison apple flew from her throat. Then the prince rode with Snow White to his kingdom, where they were married, and the 7 dwarfs visited them every Sunday. Yay, it had a great ending. What is your guys' favorite fairy tale? If you let me know, maybe I can find it and I can read it. Have a great day.